I prayed once for my daughter to die, and then it came true. So, when I was 20, I started dating this girl. We dated for 3 years, and although she loved me like crazy, I never really loved her at all. The reasons for that are a different story. Anyhow, about 2.5 years into the relationship, we found out she was pregnant. I didn't use a condom once, and that's it. After about 6 to 7 months, we found out that she has a damaged reproductive system and she had to stay in the hospital. I would bring her food and stuff every day after work and basically live in that hospital for 2 weeks. She wasn't allowed to get up or anything. I was by her side through the whole thing. Then one day, out of nowhere, her water broke. She was about to deliver the baby when we talked to some of the hospital staff. They explained that since the baby was being delivered at this point, she hasn't developed lungs yet, and if we decided to let the hospital staff resuscitate her, she could have permanent brain damage. We decided that if she is born and she is not breathing, we would not resuscitate her. Now here's the screwed up part. This entire time, from the point I found out she was pregnant, I was hoping that something bad would happen so that I wouldn't be stuck in this relationship and life forever. I started praying that if there was a God, he would get me out of this situation. When the baby was born, I watched her turn blue, then purple, then black right in front of me. I watched in horror as she struggled to breathe without lungs. It was and still is the most horrifying thing I have ever seen. I've lived with this secret my entire life, and I've never told a single person. It has given me depression to the point where I've tried to take my own life. I have incredible anxiety and nightmares that I've had ever since. I've been through mental hospitals and therapists as well. I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but thank you for listening and helping me get this off my chest. Story number 2. Just found out my wife was unfaithful. Tonight, I, M36, found out that my wife, F37 of 10 years, was unfaithful to me. I happened to be looking at her phone when a text of just a peach emoji came through from an unknown number. I immediately had a pit in my stomach, Googled the number, and found it linked to a name of her ex from before we were married. He has long been an issue in our marriage, from normal male jealousy type things to multiple instances of him trying to contact my wife over the years, despite being married himself. To the best of my knowledge, she's never reciprocated any communication in the past until these recent events. I logged into our phone account and not only saw several texts, no details, just that a text was sent or received, along with several phone calls of 10 to 15 minute calls with this number over the last few weeks. I immediately stopped what we were doing and asked if she had been communicating with him, and she admitted that they had been talking/texting for a few weeks now. While she first tried to say it was only friendly communication, she quickly admitted that they had indeed sexted a bit and exchanged photos. She said he initiated the photos unprompted, but that reciprocated a few times. While I don't know the specific nature of the conversations as she deleted the chat, she admitted that comments were made to the effect of being each other's hall pass, and that she wants more of him since she never got the whole thing when they dated. She was in tears and very apologetic that she hurt me like this, admitting there's no excuse for it, and she doesn't know why she did it, claiming she's not even attracted to him and only wants to be with me. While she claims she wouldn't ever have let it get physical, the thing she said to him indicates to me that she wanted it to happen and was open to it, and if the opportunity presented itself, she would have done it. We have a pretty good life together, 3 young kids, decent sex life, we rarely argue, get along great, and make each other laugh constantly. So I'm completely at a loss right now, hurt, angry, confused, sad, disgusted. I feel like my heart is literally breaking. We have family get-togethers for the holidays this week, so we're trying to put on our best show for the time being. But I've moved into the guest room until I can figure out what to do moving forward. I don't think that I want a divorce, but I told her all the options are on the table. I've reached out to the woman who I think is his wife to have a conversation with her so that she knows what he's been up to. It's partially motivated by anger. If he's going to ruin my life, then I'm going to ruin his. But it's also motivated by the fact that she needs to know. She says she'll do absolutely anything to make it right so that I'll forgive/trust her again, and I want to believe her. I sent my wife the name of a local counselor and told her that it's her job to reach out to him if she's serious about fixing this. I also said that if she ever contacts him again for any reason whatsoever, then it's over. She agreed. She asked me if I wanted to tell anyone as payback, and I said no. But the more I think about it, the more I think it may be good for her to admit to some friends and family as a way of taking responsibility for her actions. I know it isn't my fault, but I also recognize that she did this for a reason, and there's something she was getting from him that she wasn't getting from me. Not sure what else to do. I'm looking for advice, support, and just good vibes to get through this. Update 1. Thank you all for the kind words and advice. It's greatly appreciated and incredibly helpful. Several people have suggested that she move to the guest room. The pictures she sent him were sent from our bed, so honestly, I'm not sure I can sleep in there right now. When I told her to contact a counselor, I said she may have to have some uncomfortable conversations with family as a result, as they will need to have some idea why they're babysitting so consistently. She didn't love the idea, but was open to it. So I'm hopeful she'll be receptive towards telling people as a part of her apology tour as well. Update number 2. I texted her this morning that her 2 jobs for today are to contact the counselor and to write down a detailed timeline of every conversation, call, and text that took place, to the best of her abilities. I also have her phone with me and will be running recovery software to find the old messages, as well as tracking software to monitor her activity moving forward. She stands firm that this is the first and only time this has ever happened, and based on the little I know, I do tend to believe her, but time will tell. Furthermore, she did not like the idea of telling friends and family because of how it will make her look, and I told her that's too bad. The time to look good was 5 weeks ago when she started communicating with him. She needs to own this unless a trained professional tells us otherwise. She also told me that she did make comparisons between him and me, pertaining to size to be specific, and she fantasized about him a few times when we were together, and at one point told him she loved him after he said it to her. I'm still open to forgiveness, but it's looking slimmer and slimmer by the minute. I also spoke with the other wife this morning, and she's clearly distraught. She doesn't know as much as I do, and that's because she didn't want to. I told her that I'm willing to share more with her or have my wife speak with her face to face if she decides she's comfortable with that. And finally, I will be reaching out to a divorce attorney to see what options exist, as well as our travel agent to cancel an upcoming trip we were supposed to take to celebrate our belated 10-year anniversary. Maybe we can take the trip for our 11 if she puts in the hard work between now and then. I've got to say I respect this guy for laying out all the options on the table in front of him and not writing off any of them. I always say that everybody has their own personal line when it comes to these things, so it seems like he knows what his line is and his wife hasn't crossed it, but she's right on the edge. So, hopefully he finds what is best for him because she cheated and cheaters never prosper. Next story. Story number 3. I have been booking a male sex worker a few times a year for several years. I am a woman in my late 20s, and I've booked a male sex worker a few times a year since I was about 26 years old. It's not something I'm ashamed of, but it is something that I could never tell anyone in my life, and I guess I just wanted to get it off my chest and share my experience with someone. I guess to start off, seeing a sex worker never even crossed my mind. It never even occurred to me that there were men who provided services to women. And I know what people are going to say, that only a small number of them exist, and they probably see men as well. FYI, there are straight male sex workers out there. Anyway, I was SA'd when I was 19 years old, and after that, I completely lost interest in men, sex, and dating for about 6 years. At this time, I started trying to get back into dating, but I met some terrible guys and felt a lot of anxiety around being with someone after such a long time. It was around this time that I read an article about a male sex worker for women. Sex work is legal where I live, and it seemed like something that would help me get past my anxiety. So, after a year of thinking about it, I decided to bite the bullet and hired a sex worker for 2 hours. A good amount of that time was to test the waters and see if it was something I wanted to do. I was of course nervous about giving a man I had just met money and inviting them back to my hotel room to have sex. I had looked at his advertisement, his reviews, website, and social media for a long time, a year, before I decided to roll the dice and take the gamble. I had a great time with him. He was kind, funny, and attentive. The sex was great, of course, but I found the chatting, hanging out, having drinks, having a laugh, etc. to be equally satisfying. It was just a fun night. Since then, I have booked him 2 to 4 times a year, except for COVID, depending on when I travel to that particular place and if I have the finances for a booking. I now book overnights, so we have drinks, dinner, lots of chatting and laughing, and of course, sex. Before sleeping, morning sex, and breakfast before parting ways. I have seen another sex worker when the person I usually see was not available. It was nice to see someone different and have a different experience, but I guess for me, I've developed a rapport with one particular person. When I see the usual person that I see, I feel like it's seeing an old friend. We can pick up where we left off, continue a discussion from last time. Don't get me wrong, I am under no illusion as to the relationship I have with him. It is a transactional relationship with very clear boundaries. We don't really talk outside of booking, apart from a text message here and there, and I do of course pay him for his time. But that's one of the good things about it. I don't walk into a booking being worried that he wants me to do something or be somebody. I can talk to someone who I don't have mutual friends with, so I don't walk into a booking being worried that he wants me to do something or be somebody. I can talk to someone who I don't have mutual friends with, so I don't have to worry about whatever we do or talk about will be gossiped about. He's someone who I can express my desires with, but without feeling judged. He's introduced me to new things and new experiences, but he's done so in a way that feels safe and where I'm in control. I can say no to things without argument. Safe sex is always a guarantee, and I know that if I ask for things to slow down or stop, he will do so immediately. And in return, his only expectation of me is that I pay for his time and that I treat him with respect. Since starting this, I have found that I am more confident in myself. I am more assertive, understanding of my wants and needs, and I can communicate my boundaries much better. I've gotten past my anxieties around sex and dating. I don't consider myself unattractive or unable to find a date or find someone to have sex with, but I find dating and Tinder to be so frustrating and difficult. I don't see a sex worker while I'm in a relationship, but I'm not really interested in relationships at the moment. I'm enjoying my life as it is right now, and things are great. I have no intention of stopping this unless I find a steady partner. And I guess right now, think of it as this is my time to have fun and explore my sexuality in a safe way. Edit. A lot of people have asked for a website or how to find a sex worker. I will not be sharing a website because it's very location specific. And like I keep saying, unfortunately, sex work is not legal/decriminalized in many areas of the world, so it will all differ. I've also replied to a comment with some thoughts on how to find a male sex worker, and I thought I'd just copy and paste it here. This may not be applicable to all, but it's the best I can do. So, I would suggest doing some Googling about sex work in your area. Maybe see if there's any articles on male sex work for your country/area, which might point you in the right direction of someone. The news articles, however, are usually a bit lame, because the general consensus is, OMG, why would women pay for sex when they can get it for free? But they'll often interview a sex worker from the area, and it can at least be a good starting point. Look them up and look at their advertising, and then you can look on that website to see if there are other men advertising services for women and see if there are any that you would be interested in seeing. Like I've said, checking out websites, social media, reviews, photo, etc. will give you a good idea if they're real and if they treat it as a job, and not just some guy who has taken selfies at the gym and thinks he's gonna get paid to sleep around. A real sex worker will focus on your needs and not just getting his rocks off. Quite a few sex workers also offer social bookings for a lower rate. Book for an hour or two and get a coffee or a drink and just see how it goes. Talk, and then you can decide if you want to see them further or not. Personally, I like what this lady's doing. I've heard multiple stories of men who want to have more experience in the bedroom but can't get experience to begin with. It's like getting a job. So they hire an escort or a sex worker to teach them or guide them so that they may learn or just get experience. But I've never heard of a woman doing it, but it seems like it's working out for her. She's overcoming her traumatic experience. She's more confident. She's getting laid. He's getting paid. It's cool. It's calm. It's consensual. Everybody wins. The end. Happy ending. Next story. Story number 4. I regret donating a kidney to my mom. 3 years ago, my 36F mom, 69F, was diagnosed with kidney failure. most likely due to high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes, which was poorly controlled for years because she doesn't like doctors and didn't want to be a pill popper, in her words. She was told she had to go on dialysis 3 days a week, which is up to 6 hours a day, including travel time. And she was put on the kidney transplant waiting list, which takes years to find a match on average. She was firm that she did not want to be on dialysis and told me to give her one of my kidneys. She said she had raised me and provided me all these years, put me through college, etc. Now she needed this from me. What is that? Ugh. Filial piety is very important to our culture. We are Chinese American, by the way. I was taken aback by this, but after thinking about it, I also thought it was the right thing to do based on my own values. I love my mom. I care about helping people. I was already signed up to be a deceased organ donor. Plenty of people live with only one kidney, so if I can give a kidney to save someone else's life, then I should, especially if it's a loved one. They make being a kidney donor sound very good in theory. People with only one kidney can live just as long as people with two, and if you ever need a kidney, you get priority on the transplant list. But what they leave out is you have to basically turn your life upside down afterwards because now you only have half the reserve. I had been completely healthy before, but only a year after the surgery, they found out that my remaining kidney couldn't handle doing the work of two and was now also in the early stages of failing. I had built my life around food. I was working my dream job as a chef and ran a food travel blog as my main hobby. However, to protect my remaining kidney, I basically had to cut out meat, fat, and sugar from my diet and limit myself to just 1 gram of salt a day, which meant I had to quit my dream job as a huge part of it was tasting the food I was serving. I don't have any other skills, so the only job I was able to get was as a secretary. Almost all of the food I can still eat is very bland, and when I do travel, I often have to bring my own food or survive on salads. And also, please don't lecture me about healthy restaurants. I went to a culinary school. I can tell you that restaurant food is by definition not healthy. Even at vegan/self-build healthy restaurants, they still use high quantities of salt, sugar, fat, and umami to appeal to the primitive part of our brain that determines whether food tastes good or not. Meanwhile, only about 2 years after the transplant, the kidney I gave to my mom also failed. She would often not be taking the immunosuppressants for after the transplant because she could not tolerate the side effects. It's possible her hypertension or diabetes were still not optimally controlled, and she also did not make any of the dietary changes either. She is now back on dialysis and on the waiting list. I'll probably get flack for this, but looking back, I cannot help but think it was not worth it. I bought my mom maybe 2 extra years at the cost of 30 years of my life or more that would have been free from worries about chronic health problems. I also lost my career, my main hobby, and my husband and I have been thinking about starting a family, but my doctor told me it would not be advisable for me to have children. I was previously healthy, but am now on several medications to try to stretch my remaining kidney as far as possible before I have to go on dialysis. And even if I do get a kidney transplant, I will have to take strong immunosuppressants with significant side effects for the rest of my life. Unlike the benign blood pressure and sugar meds my mom could have just taken like she was supposed to not be in the position in the first place. My mom lived a full life, almost 70 years, and to try to buy her a few more years, I feel like I cut mine in half. Edit. Wow, was not expecting this level of support and positivity. It really means a lot to me. To address a few points that a few people have asked me about, yes, I am talking to a therapist. A big question that we are working through is, was my decision to donate really based on my own values, or was I influenced into it by my mom and norms of how I should behave towards her? At the time, I thought I was weighing the two separately, but my therapist has helped me identify ways her values might have been speaking through me unconsciously, best case, or ways she could have been deliberately trying to manipulate me, worst case. I'll keep you posted on that one. Something that therapy has also helped me crystallize is a core value that a lot of my beliefs stem from is that a year of life for me is not special or worth more than a year for anybody else, and vice versa. But just looking at it objectively, my mom does not have many years left regardless of whether she got a kidney, while I still had a lot of years to potentially lose by giving one away. So even just based on that, forget anything about rare complications or transplant rejection. If I had this mindset, then I probably probably would have said no. As for my current job, it is true secretarial work, which isn't what I find stimulating. When it became apparent that I would have to switch careers, I considered going back to school to do something with technical and leadership potential, like I had in the kitchen. Maybe engineering, or even as a long shot, go to medical school. But I had to suppress those notions, as the reality was I could not afford to take risks like go hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt for 4 to 8 years. I needed a job that I was qualified for now, and that would provide health insurance for my kidney condition that I wouldn't lose because I could no longer do the job if I got sicker. There aren't that many jobs that offer that anymore, so I consider myself lucky that I even found this. So much like OP mentioned, I've heard about the thing with the kidneys where, oh, you can lose one but still be fine with just the other, but apparently they're leaving out a lot of stuff because I've never heard about these side effects. And I'm willing to bet the average person hasn't either. And this has seemingly derailed her life. She lost her dream job, she can't eat foods that she loves, she has to take a job she hates, she has to be on dialysis, I don't know. Sometimes you have to end the videos on a depressing note. I'm sorry. Would you like a hug to cheer up the mood? Here, we'll hug. Okay, that's too long. Stop hugging me. Okay, bye-bye.